I'm Richard Redmond, host of The Play is the Thing. Tonight's story is titled Ever Young, written by Alice Gertzenberg. The setting is in a lobby of the Poinciana Hotel in Palm Beach, Florida. The story is about four ladies of wealth talking about staying ever young, everybody's dream, and about a lost love. To quote Norman Vincent Peale, live your life and forget your age.
No need to hurry through dinner, Agnes. There are plenty of chairs.
We missed our chance last night because you lingered over coffee.
Oh, I always linger over my coffee.
In another moment, there would not have been a chair vacant.
Oh, put one aside for Mrs. Blanchard. I nodded to her just a little while ago in this direction when we came in from the dining room.
Oh, she will like this corner. We can see everyone who crosses the lobby. Good evening, Mrs. Blanchard.
We have kept a chair for you.
Good evening, Mrs. Poindexter, Mrs. Dorchester.
Sit down, Mrs. Blanchard.
No, do not help me. I am about to throw it away.
Throw your cane away? Are you getting stronger, Mrs. Blanchard?
I must get stronger. I am tired of depending upon a cane. Everywhere I go, people are putting themselves out to be polite to me. In a day or two, I shall throw this old thing away.
Mrs. Blanchard. Oh.
It is no idle threat. I mean it.
But you told me you had used it 15 years.
So I have. And it is old enough to throw away. The others are just exactly not more than 9 months.
Oh.
9 months?
Do you think I should say 90 years?
Isn't that a little closer to the truth?
But it is not the truth. The wonderful truth is that my legs are not 71 years old, that they are not more than 9 months old. Mm-hmm. I have been reading an amazing book.
What is it?
Oh. Truth and Youth. Wow.
This book says that every cell in our body is completely new every 9 months.
Oh. I heard about that. My daughter was reading a book about that. I forget what it was called.
Each cell reproduces itself according to the impression given to it by our subconscious mind. And as we grow old, we hold a thought of age and impress ourselves with that thought. But if we rid ourselves with the illusion of old age, we can remain ever young.
Oh, how do you do?
Oh, how do you do? You must pardon me. I don't recall the name.
Mrs. Poindexter of New York. Don't tell me, Mrs. Courtney Page, that you have forgotten me.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Poindexter, a name so well known. We met, I remember exactly, 5 years ago at the opera. Mm-hmm. Your box was next to the Carols. We were their guests one evening when my late husband and I were in New York on a wedding trip.
Why, yes, of course. How clever of you to remember. My friends, Mrs. Dorchester, Mrs. Blanchard.
How do you do? Won't you sit down?
Yes, thank you.
I have noticed you, Mrs. Blanchard. Your cane?
Thank you.
Mrs. Dorchester and I have been spending the season in Palm Beach. Mrs. Dorchester is a native of Long Island.
And I came down from St. Louis and had the good fortune of becoming acquainted with them personally. I have always known Mrs. Payne Dexter by reputation.
Blanchard of St. Louis. The name is familiar.
And my daughter married the Duke of Cawbray.
Oh, yes, yes. But just lately, it seems to me I saw that name lately.
No doubt you did. I am celebrating my divorce.
I think she has a great deal of courage to face the world alone, voluntarily.
It is rejuvenating to feel so marvelously free.
She is quite right. Why should a woman remain in bondage when there is at every turn a chance for a better alliance?
Good gracious. Do you believe me capable of marrying again at my age?
Why not? A woman can marry any man she wants.
Oh, the man may get the woman he wants. Henry kept insisting until I married him. But I don't think it's the other way around. Do you, Phoebe?
I don't know. I worked very hard for Thomas, but I got him.
I haven't any opinion. The one I wanted, I met only when it was too late.
What do you mean by too late?
Well, after I was married to someone else.
But now you are divorced.
Oh, it's too late now. My romance was over 20 years ago.
Do you really think a woman can marry any man she wants?
I've proved it. I was engaged 3 times, married once widowed, and now I have another fiancé. Isn't that proof?
You are, if you will pardon my frankness, a very handsome woman, Mrs. Courtney Page. Such attractions would not require much further effort on your part.
Well, thank you. But there is a science about attracting love as there is about anything else. There hasn't been a moment in my life when I haven't been in love.
Oh, that's impossible. There aren't enough people in the world for that.
Oh, yes, there are. As long as you hold the thought of love, you will find those who can love. And as long as you love it, will attract it in return.
Where is your home now, Mrs. Courtney Page?
Chicago, but I was born in San Francisco. I was Emily Tarden.
Emily Tarden? You don't mean it. Are you truly? Why, it was just seemed like yesterday when all the magazines were full of your photographs. The most beautiful debutante on the Western coast.
They did make a fuss about it when I became engaged to Harlow Bingham. I was only 18 then. When I look back and think what a brilliant career I might have had with Harlow, well, you know, he died. Before we were married, an accident, horse racing. Poor Harlow. He gave me my first pearls.
Magnificent pearls.
I have scarcely been able to keep my eyes off of them.
This strand, the shortest and smallest, was given to me by Harlow Bingham. Upon our engagement, he gave me a solitaire, too. But the pearls were a gift of thanks because I had given up the desire to go on the stage to marry him.
Oh, did you want to be an actress?
I have wanted nothing more all of my life.
Oh, you would have made a good one, too.
My family opposed me, as all families do.
They did in those days.
So I had to give up the idea of acting on the stage.
Oh, hey, look. Look, that's the man who tried to flirt with me the other day at the tea dance in the Grove.
Don't you know who that is?
No.
That's Beverly Strawn, our bestseller novelist.
Gracious. Hide me. I must have been he must have been picking me out for the dowager mother-in-law in his next novel.
Did you marry Mr. Courtney Page after Mr. What was his name? Died? Your first fiancé?
No. I became engaged to Philip Harlow, an Englishman I met in Egypt. He was on his way to South Africa. He had been in the diplomatic service in India and had been transferred. He brought me this second strand. The second largest and longest from India. He went ahead to South Africa to prepare a home, intending to come back for me, but he died of fever, and we were never married.
How thrillingly tragic.
I could not have endured it.
And the other strands? You have 2 more.
This third one was the gift of my husband, Mr. Courtney Page. I would not let him give them to me until after we were married.
That was a wise precaution. They say pearls mean tears.
It is surprising that he risked giving you pearls at all.
He felt he had to because he was jealous of the others, of course. I couldn't throw the others away. They were so beautiful and so costly.
Naturally not.
So he finally purchased a strand in Vienna, larger and longer than the other.
And then did he die too?
Oh, no. Mr. Courtney Page was the third man I was engaged to, but the only one I married. He died scarcely a year ago.
Will you have a life preserver? I ate something tonight that didn't quite agree with me.
Oh, thank you.
Mrs. Blanchard?
No, thanks. I don't need them anymore since I am taking the new diet.
What is the new diet?
Nuts, fruit, no meat, no bread, no hot vegetables, no coffee, no tea.
Have you stopped eating altogether?
Only fruit and nuts. I feel as light as a feather. In another day, I shall walk and throw away this stick.
You said in another week you would throw it away.
Now be careful. Don't take risks.
Well, the book says that we must not have negatives in our mind. I tell you that if I can have enough faith, I shall walk alone.
Oh, the book.
Truth and youth.
The average man and woman of middle age chooses a comfortable chair and settles down in it with the thought that life is finished and it is necessary to await the end. Women do this more than men. When women see their little children grown to adulthood and independent of them, they feel that their use in life is over. Nothing is more untrue. The grandmother is free.
Just a moment, Phoebe. Excuse me. What did you say was the name of the woman in jet walking with the aviator? Did she fly down with him from New York?
Oh, that's Hilda Dane, one of the Follies.
Oh.
They say she has her skin insured when she's on the beach.
I have never seen her skin. She paints it up with whitewash, and her lips are thick with red paint. Yesterday, on the beach, she wore a lemon-colored woolen cape with a big sable collar and every diamond that has ever been given to her.
Is she married to the aviator?
Oh, don't ask absurd questions, Agnes. The grandmother is a free woman. She has a new youth. She has the vision of experience with which to experiment for greater wisdom. Ah, Agnes, you must read this book. It will stir you up. Your very mind is getting to look like wool.
I have always been more domestic than you, Phoebe.
Domestic. Haven't I done my share? Haven't I run a house in New York, a house in Newport, a house in London, apartments in Paris? I've even had a palace one season in Venice. Oh, no. It is not domesticity that is making you old. It is mental lethargy.
That is the worst enemy to youth, mental lethargy. I refuse to have it.
Mrs. Dorchester doesn't live for herself anymore. When she is at home, she is a slave to her grandchildren. When she is away, she can scarcely take time from the wool to look at a coconut grove.
Oh, I can knit without looking.
I am more selfish. I let my children and my grandchildren alone. As long as they are not starving, it is no business of mine to live for them. I do not spend my evenings knitting baby socks. I have my opera box. I give dinner parties and entertain distinguished foreign visitors. I have my club committees, my charities, and I am studying art so as to be able to add to my husband's collection of paintings as a memorial to him. And I am taking up Spanish because I am planning to spend next season in Buenos Aires. But you, Agnes, you make your children dependent upon you. You are always nursing some grandchild through something.
But when they are ill, I must help them.
Oh, you think you must, and they let you think it because you don't want to hurt their feelings by letting you know that they don't need you. You take care of a grandchild so his own mother can go and play bridge. You save your son a nurse's bill while he spends the money playing polo at the country club.
But it isn't a happy thought not to be needed.
You were telling us about your pearls, Mrs. Courtney Page. It is an exquisite pleasure to look at them.
This fourth strand, the largest and longest, is the gift of my new fiancé. I am down here waiting for time to pass. We shall be married as soon as it seems correct.
Oh, dear me. Oh, there's Mrs. Wallace Morse in another gown, and as usual, no petticoat.
Well, I think she does wear one.
Aren't you lucky to find a fiancé again? I am afraid I couldn't bring myself to care for any man as much as I have cared for one in the past.
Nor I.
Men aren't worth bothering about.
I was so lost without marriage companionship that when I was in Paris last autumn, I picked out the most eligible man I could find. He is quite old, but very nice, and has valuable mines in Australia.
Is he a Frenchman?
No, an American. But he hasn't been in this country since he was sent to the American legation in China. He has had an exciting life. He was taken prisoner in the Boxer Rebellion and was reported missing for years. But a faithful Chinese servant smuggled him to Australia.
Your fiancé? His name?
Oh, Oliver Trent, president of the Australian Mining Company of,
Oliver Trent. You said Oliver Trent?
Why, wasn't that the name of the man you loved? Wasn't that the name, Phoebe?
the man. Mrs. Blanchard, I don't understand.
Mrs. Blanchard has been telling us about a friend of hers who had been lost in the Boxer Rebellion. She thought he had died. No doubt it's a consolation to her to know that he is still alive.
No, Mrs. Courtney Page, I can scarcely bear the fact that he still lives. I have held him in my heart as one dead for 20 years.
Yes.
I have lived on the thought that he loved me. He once loved me, but I know now that men cannot be true. When he went to China, he put me out of his mind forever. He has forgotten me for younger and handsomer women.
I wouldn't let it worry me. Men are not worth such lifelong adoration. You look about and someone else will be available.
Perhaps Mrs. Courtney Page will give him up if we tell her what he means to you.
I want my own, not what is cast off.
You want me to give him up? It would be hard for me to do. It wasn't easy to win him. I had to use all my art I have learned in past experiences to get him. He has never been married and is a little afraid. But I won him. If I give him up, are you sure he would remember you?
No. Do not trouble. I shall have to bear it. I feel quite blind, as if I had been struck on the head. But maybe it is just in my heart. You see, he and I were very much in love. But I was married, and he had to go away. He promised not to forget. But he was young, and maybe I shouldn't have believed him. But I never heard again, and the government reported him missing. Everyone said he must be dead. That last day before he went, I met him clandestinely in the park. I cut off a bit of my hair that day. It was golden then. Like golden amber, he said. And he put it into an amber locket he wore on his watch charm.
I remember. Amber locket from a watch charm. I have it here. I've had it 20 years. It made into a bracelet. My son brought it home from the Philippines. It was given to him by a Chinese servant.
The locket?
A Chinese servant?
Yes, the very one you said rescued him. I remember it all now. How stupid of me not to think of it before. But as Phoebe says, my mind's all wool. The Chinese servant.
Yes, go on.
Well, you know, the Boxers stormed the legation. He fought desperately and valiantly. The Chinese servant described all of that. How he was taken prisoner and tortured so he almost lost his mind. At night he raved into delirium. He called a woman's name, but there was no one of that name in the legation. My son told me, but I have such a wretched memory for names. But it wasn't a real name that one could identify. It must have been a nickname.
Mm-hmm. Was it Dee Dee?
Dee Dee, that's what it was. Oh, my stupid head.
It meant dear.
Why have you kept that from us all this time?
How could I know my son's story was about Mrs. Blanchard until she mentioned the watch charm? But now it all comes back to me. At night in delirium, he called this name. How he loved this woman. And he took the watch charm and opened it and kissed the blonde lock of hair, and he treasured it as nothing else he had. He treasured it so highly that he gave it to his Chinese servants to keep for him, for fear they would rob him of it. They took his money and everything else, but he had the servant keep the amber safely. But
Well, then how did you forget it?
that's just it. I'll tell you how it was. Oh, my stupid memory. Phoebe, stop it.
Oh, stop
You
it.
distract me.
Oh, okay.
The amber, the Chinese servant smuggled him into a boat.
Well, who was smuggled into the boat?
Mr. What's his name? Your
Oliver Trent?
Yes, into the boat. And in the excitement of concealing him behind some kegs, the ship began to move, and the Chinese servant had to run to get off. And in running, he forgot to give up the amber watch charm. So he kept it. He kept it as a talisman, and a few years later, when he served my son in the Philippines, he gave it to him as a talisman when my son was very ill with fever.
Oh.
And my son became superstitious about it and had it set into a bracelet for me as my protection. Now I shall give it to you, for it is your talisman, Mrs. Blanchard, a talisman of his undying love.
And that is why I had such difficulty in making him care for me. He told me about his first love. He spoke of her as Dee Dee. He told me that when he lost the amber, he felt that she had gone out of his life forever. He said that she was married and it was unlawful for him to think of her. But he has never forgotten. He told me he would love her always. And when I tell him of you, Mrs. Blanchard, he will come to you at once. For you have been right. His love has been yours and is yours still. I think you ought to have these pearls.
Oh, no, thank you. I don't want them. I have this. Excuse me, ladies, if I go to my room. I have had an answer out of the silence. And I'm a little unstrung.
And without her cane.
Don't remind her.
Poor dear, poor dear.
Was all that true what you said, Agnes? I never heard you talk so fast in all your life. And how suddenly you got such memory. You never told me anything about that amber charm, and you've worn it forever, seems to me.
Father gave it to me on my 21st birthday to save a lock of my blonde hair. I risked the chance that mine was a duplicate of hers.
And all you said was a lie.
Oh, it doesn't matter. We shall make it come true.
But when she finds out that you have deceived her...
Oh, she will never find out. I shall warn him to hide away his amber watch chain.
Does he still wear it?
Yes, and many other charms from other loves. They say he has been a great beau.
The outrageous flirt.
Poor dear Mrs. Blanchard. I thought she would die. I was afraid she was dying. I had to say something to bring her to.
But what have you gained by these lies?
Does she not walk?
Yes, it is a miracle.
Merely a miracle of the realization of love.
But it is built on a false belief. He has not been true to her.
Oh, Mrs. Payne Dexter, I have never questioned the reality of one's love for me. That which counts is, after all, only that which is in our own hearts. If Mrs. Blanchard is convinced of his love, then that is all that is really necessary.
But when you marry him...
Oh, I shall not marry him. I shall only keep the pearls.
But if you love him...
Well, as for that, I always can find someone else.
Oh, gracious, my wool is just a mess.
Oh, you'd better give up knitting, Agnes, and turn to story writing. You quite surprised me with your sudden brilliance. Bellboy, do you have another pair of glasses for me?
Your diamond lorgnette from your room, perhaps?
Do you think I have to manufacture a love affair to help me get rid of my glasses?
She walked without her cane.
Oh, to stay young, one must love.